Hello, this is the feast of the 33rd Sunday of the year. This would be November 19th, 2017. And it is the last of the Sundays of the year for a while until after Christmas, when we start to pick up a couple of them before Lent. But the first reading this particular day is from the book of Proverbs. And I always smile when this is a reading because I always look out over the community and see men giving a nudge to their wives. This is quite some woman, this particular wife in Proverbs. When one finds a worthy wife, her value is far beyond pearls. Her husband, entrusting his heart to her, has an unfailing prize. She brings him good and not evil all the days of her life. She obtains wool and flax and works with loving hands. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her fingers ply the spindle. She reaches out her hands to the poor, and extends her arms to the needy. Charm is deceptive and beauty fleeting. The woman who fears Yahweh is to be praised. Give her a reward for her labors, and let her works praise her at the city gates. The word of the Lord. I'd advise, maybe if anybody's interested, especially the husbands, they can read the rest of chapter 31 of Proverbs. They left out, the people who chose the readings, about 2/3 of what this worthy wife does. The second reading is again from that earliest Christian writing we have, 1 Thessalonians, and it speaks about the problems that come up when people spend all their time looking at the skies, waiting for Jesus' second coming. And it's from chapter 5 of 1 Thessalonians. Concerning times and seasons, brothers and sisters, you have no need for anything to be written to you, for you yourselves know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief at night. When people are saying peace and security, then sudden disaster comes upon them, like labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. But you, brothers and sisters, are not in darkness, for that day to overtake you like a thief. For all of you are children of the light and children of the day. We are not of the night or of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep as the rest do, but let us stay alert and sober. The word of the Lord. The Gospel is a rather long one, and is from the end of that Gospel, chapter 25 of Matthew, and brings up this famous parable of the talents being given out. Jesus told his disciples this parable. A man going on a journey called in his servants and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to a third 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. Immediately the one who received 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5. Likewise, the one who received 2 talents made another 2. But the man who received 1 went off, dug a hole in the ground, and buried his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants came back and settled accounts with them. The one who had received 5 talents came forward bringing the additional 5. He said, Master, you gave me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more. His master said to him, Well done, my good and faithful servant. Since you were faithful in small matters, I will give you greater responsibilities. Come, share your master's joy. Then the one who had received 2 talents also came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more. His master said to him, Well done, my good and faithful servant. Since you were faithful in small matters, I will give you great responsibilities. Come, share your master's joy. Then the one who had received the 1 talent came forward and said, Master, I knew you were a demanding person, harvesting where you did not plant, and gathering where you did not scatter. So out of fear, I went off and buried your talent in the ground. Here it is back. His master said to him in reply, You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I did not plant, and gather where I did not scatter. Should you not then have put my money in the bank, so that I could have got it back with interest on my return? Now then, take the talent from him and give it to the one with 10. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will grow rich. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And throw this useless servant into the darkness outside, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth." That last line certainly doesn't reinforce the philosophy of Robin Hood, where you take from the rich and give to the poor. That last section of this passage basically says, to the rich, we'll get more. To those who don't have, what little they have, we're going to take away. That's why we have to look at this very carefully. The early church, up certainly probably until the 80s or so, still looked forward to Jesus' second coming as an event that they would experience in their lifetime. Certainly 1 Thessalonians, which was written probably before the year 50 of the Common Era, that letter still kind of symbolized the faith of a lot of Christians, where you went around all day, some of them at least, looking at the sky, looking for signs that Jesus was going to come back in a few minutes, a few days, month or two. As I said in the commentary I wrote for this weekend, that obviously, I presume, being ingenious people, some Christians even conducted lotteries trying to pinpoint the exact date of that particular event. But by doing that, as Paul says in that 1 Thessalonians reading, everybody's spending time looking up to the sky, not doing what Jesus asked them to do. They think that perhaps their faith or their religion revolves around simply being anxious for Jesus' return, not anxious to give themselves to other people. That's why Paul has to deal with that phenomena somehow or another, to say we're here not just to expect Jesus' return, which we do, but we're here to occupy our time correctly until Jesus does return. That's why even that gospel with the parable of the 3 servants getting those talents, by the way, talents originally were a type of money, like dollars or francs or euros or something. They didn't refer originally, at least, to natural abilities. It's because of their use in this particular parable that later we talk about people being very talented. We'd have to say similar, you're very dollared, or you're very euroed, or you're very franked, or something like that, if we use that same image. But Jesus is saying he wants his followers to actually risk things in their love of other people to be able to accomplish that love throughout their life until he returns. Because Matthew is the last evangelist still who thinks that Jesus is coming back in his lifetime or the lifetime of most of the people in the community for whom he writes. But we should not hesitate to risk what is necessary in loving others to achieve what Jesus wishes us to do. Please, as a kid in Catholic grade school, I was so petrified sometimes about the fear that I could be thrown into hell for committing a mortal sin. Even at the age of 7 or 8, I worried about committing mortal sins. But you sometimes got kind of petrified to a point where you did nothing for fear that what you would do could lead to more problems. I remember years and years ago talking to an elderly man who had never married. And one day he confided in me and says, "Father, you know why I never got married? I got so frightened by all my teachers about what happened sexually that could send you to hell, that I simply decided I would never date a woman. I'd never do anything like that. I'd never give myself to a woman because I didn't want to run the risk of going to hell for something that would happen sexually in that relationship." That's horrible. And Jesus certainly speaks against that in that parable today. And not only speaks against it, he also says people who have faith, that's what he meant by those who have the faith and use that faith are going to get more faith. If we don't use the faith and the conviction that Jesus gave us as his followers, I don't think we're ever going to grow in faith. We're not going to grow in faith just by sitting around all day hoarding what we learned in grade school. We grow in faith by, out of faith, loving others around us, no matter what the situation, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the people. If we don't do that, we're in trouble. That's why, just like that perfect wife at the end of the book of Proverbs, who does all these things for her family, for her friends, for the poor, we can look at this and say, well, I don't think that particular person even had an image of an afterlife. She wasn't doing these things to get a greater place in heaven. When the book of Proverbs was composed, nobody even knew there was a heaven. But she was doing it because she thought Yahweh asked her to do that. And she was doing it very graciously for the people around her, the people who she presumed Yahweh wanted her to love. That's why, especially on this weekend, we should look around us sometimes and say, have I been horribly stingy in sharing what God has given me with other people? Especially when I could have helped people with my talents. I could have done good things with my talents. I could have expanded that faith that I got ready as a child. I could have expanded that throughout my life over and over again to more deeply be a person of faith. Faith doesn't grow if you don't use faith. If you don't use it and just kind of hoard it and hang on to it so you get to heaven with no problem, I hate to tell you, you're not the follower of Jesus. Jesus really wants to be his follower. Thank you.